Hello and welcome to AIL TV. Tonight it is 6 o'clock. I think it is about five minutes past 6. Uh, Tonight we have got a very interesting program. As you know, uh, immigration has always been a problem. Never mind in this COVID-19 era. Um, we have been working on this program for over 5 years now. But now what we have actually decided to do is actually to bring it to you live, talk to an expert who understands matters concerning immigration. I don't want to waste much of your time. If you have been waiting to tune in, I am going to present to you Primerose from IPS Legal, because she is the person who understands all matters concerning uh, immigration. So, Primrose, take it away.
Thank you, JJ. Thank you. I just want to say welcome, everybody. Everyone who's watching live on Facebook, welcome. If you have not previously joined us before here on Facebook, welcome. This program is about immigration in the UK. And our aim here is to just raise awareness and help people who are navigating the system so that they understand the rules that apply to them. They understand the system that they are dealing with, that they are up against before they engage with it. So today we're just going to talk about some of the changes that have been announced by the government, the proposed changes to the UK immigration system. And those changes will kick in next year, we've been told. So today I just want to talk about that a bit. And then we'll look at children applying to join their parents in the UK. So if you are a parent or you are a relative and you are responsible for a child who's not in the UK, we will look at the application that you can make for the child who is outside the UK. So stay tuned in. So I'm just going to go straight into the proposed changes, what the government has proposed. So I'm starting with the keynote speech that was given by the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, at the Conservative Party conference, which was almost 2 weeks ago. So in case you were not aware of it, during the Conservative Party conference, the Home Secretary talked about the changes that they are going to introduce next year to try and deal with what she called a broken UK asylum system. So the Home Secretary gave quite a long speech, and then she did speak to the media to explain a bit more about the changes that she is proposing to bring next year. But I'm not going to repeat word for word what she said. I'm just going to touch on the things that I think are very important and tell you what I think of what was announced. So she talked about the fact that the UK's asylum system is broken. She talked about the UK immigration system not being firm and not being fair. That is what she said. She said the UK asylum system or immigration system is not fair and it's not firm enough. And she talked about the UK system being broken, immigration system being broken. Okay, and I think that the changes that they are proposing are quite worrying, quite frankly. I will say this from the onset. We know that the Conservative government, when they took over in 2010, they introduced a series of reforms in what Theresa May, the Home Secretary at the time, said was a hostile system of immigration control, which was being introduced to try and deal with illegal migration. So we've already had quite significant changes over the last 10 years since the Conservative government took over. And so now we have to brace ourselves again for more changes. But I will say this, the broken system has been created by all the reforms that we've had over the last 10 years. We had a hostile system of immigration control that saw quite a lot of bad decisions coming from the Home Office. We heard about the Windrush scandal. That is all as a result of the reforms that were introduced over the last 10 years. But now at least they do see that the immigration system is broken. But how they are proposing to reform the system, I'm not quite sure about that. I am quite worried about the proposed changes, especially to the UK asylum system, because in my experience as a solicitor, I have seen some horrendous stories of people coming here for protection because they've been persecuted in their home countries, and then they come here hoping that they will be protected, but they end up just going through degrading treatment as well, something that they probably would never have anticipated that they will have to deal with when they get to the UK. And some of the proposals that we have been told to expect, I think will just cause more suffering for people, because we're dealing with human beings. We're dealing with human beings, and I think a little humanity does go a long way. We need humanity in the UK immigration system. We need a little bit of humanity, because that is currently lacking, in my opinion, in the UK asylum system. The Home Secretary talked about having a firm system which will see removals being effected quickly, a system that would stop people going through the appeals process over and over again, a system that would see people who've claimed asylum before being stopped from making repeat asylum claims. So I think that's going to hit people hard when they're trying to seek justice in the UK. So I'm quite concerned about the proposals. We also saw in the news, apart from the keynote speech, which gave some detail on the changes which are worrying, we also saw some news reports about a leaked government report which showed that the government is considering detaining asylum seekers at a remote island somewhere outside the UK, far away from UK mainland, or to detain asylum seekers on ferries that are not being used, so that they are not processed whilst they are in the UK, but they'll be processed when they are not in the UK. They'll be on the ferries. That is a very worrying thing, and I think a lot of human rights organizations have voiced their concerns regarding that. It is not a new phenomenon, because this was something that was there in the 80s, I believe, under Margaret Thatcher. They had the Earl Williams ship, which they used to house asylum seekers, and it didn't go very well. It didn't go very well because the conditions under which the people who were housed in the ferries were living under were appalling, quite frankly, and it didn't go well, and they stopped that system. So to find out that this is something that the government is considering, I think it is quite worrying. But we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see. For those who are planning on submitting asylum applications, I would encourage you to seek advice before you engage with the process, but do so as soon as you can. Well, at least before the reforms are introduced. Nobody knows when the reforms are going to be introduced, but it can be anytime next year. We will keep you updated. We are watching everything that's happening here in the UK, just to continue to raise awareness on these issues. So yeah, I've talked about that. I've talked about the changes that are coming in to deal with what the government considers to be the broken system of immigration control, which is not firm and fair. So we need to watch out for that. And we'll talk in a little bit more detail when we have more information on what the actual proposals are. So I'm going to move straight away now to the second issue, which I said we would talk about. That is children who are applying to come to the UK to join parents. Okay, so if you are in the UK, you are a parent, you are a relative, and you are responsible for a child who lives outside the UK. We want to talk about the legal requirements for that particular visa. Okay, so there are many categories for children who are applying to come to the UK to join a parent or a relative who is in the United Kingdom. There are different rules, different categories. I think there are about 5, if not more, categories for children. So I'm not going to look at all of them. I'm going to pick just one for today. And the one that I am going to talk about is where the child's parent is settled in the UK. So if you are a parent of a child who's outside the UK and you are settled in the UK, I'm going to talk about that particular scenario. Okay, just to warn you, if you are applying for a child who's outside the UK, you have to be aware that the different rules that apply to the um, uh, different categories of children are in different places in the immigration rules. So you've got to know which particular rules apply to you, and it can be confusing if you're trying to work it out on your own, because the rules are not in one place in the immigration rules. You would expect to find all the rules regarding children to be in one place in the immigration rules, but that is not the case. You've got the rules for different categories in different places in the immigration rules. So it can be quite difficult for somebody to then know where to go and where to start. But like I said, we are here to help, and we will be looking at different categories. But today we're just looking at the scenario where the parent is in the UK with either indefinite leave to remain or British citizenship. Okay, that's the one category that I'm going to look at. I'm not looking at a situation where the parent is in the UK as a refugee, or where the parent is in the UK with limited leave to remain. We would have to look at that in another broadcast because of our time here. Okay, so for today, it's just for children whose parents or relatives are settled in the UK. Settled meaning they have indefinite leave to remain or they have British citizenship. Okay, so if you are in that situation and you're wondering, how do I get this child to come over and stay with me? You are responsible for the child. These are the rules that you have to satisfy, and I'll go through them one by one. I think you can see them coming up on the screen. If you cannot see them on the screen for whatever reason, I'm just going to go over them briefly, okay? All right, so for a child to apply because their parents are here, or the parent is here, or their relative is settled here in the UK, the child has to show that either both parents are present and settled in the UK. Yeah, either both parents are settled and present in the UK, or one parent is present and settled in the UK, and the other is being admitted on the same occasion for settlement. Okay, so either one parent is settled already in the UK, and the other parent is also applying to come to the UK at the same time as the child, or one parent is present and settled in the United Kingdom, or being one parent is present and settled in the United Kingdom, and they have sole responsibility for the child. I'll repeat that, okay? I'll repeat that. One parent is settled in the UK, and they have sole responsibility for the child's upbringing. This particular scenario would apply where a child's other parent is living outside the UK. So if the child is a parent in the country where they are applying from, but they want to join the parent who is in the UK and live with that parent instead of the one who is outside the UK, the parent in the United Kingdom has to demonstrate that they have sole responsibility for that child. The reason why there is that requirement to show sole responsibility is that where the other child's parent is outside the UK or living in the same country as the child, it is presumed that that parent who is living in the same country as the child has the responsibility for the child. Okay, so because of that, you would have to demonstrate, if you are here, that you have sole responsibility for the child. Okay, another category is for where a parent is in the UK or a relative is in the UK and they're settled here, and there are serious, compelling family or other considerations which make the exclusion of the child undesirable. Okay, so this would be where you don't fit in any of the categories I've mentioned, and you're saying, I am a parent, I am a relative of this child, I'm responsible for this child, I'm here, I'm settled here, but there are serious and compelling family or other considerations which make the exclusion of the child from the UK undesirable. Okay, it might be for compassionate reasons. The child, there's no one else in the country where they are, maybe because their own parents have died, or because no one is able to look after them. Their own parents maybe are so ill that they can't look after that child. Those are compelling family or other considerations which you can rely on if you are taking over responsibility for that child. Okay, so that is the first requirement. You have to demonstrate, whoever is the sponsor, whoever is the person they're trying to join in the UK, has to be present and settled in the United Kingdom. Okay, apart from that, you have to show that the child is under 18 years. Okay, the child must be under the age of 18. If the child is over 18 years, they're no longer considered to be a child under the immigration rules. So they do not qualify for an application for a dependent visa as a child. They have to apply for what we call an adult dependent relative visa. That is for adults, and different rules apply to that. And we're not going to go into that because they are complex and we need time to look at those particular rules for children who are over the age of 18. Okay, so for this particular one, we're looking at the children who are under the age of 18. You have to show that the child is not living an independent life. Okay, so if your child is 16 years old, I'm just giving an example here, and they are already in a relationship, I will say this, they're 17 and they've moved out, they're living with a partner, they are living an independent life, so they don't qualify. The child must not be living an independent life at the time of application. They must still be dependent on you. But where somebody has already formed their own household, they have a child of their own, they're living on their own with their partner. In some countries, that does happen, where children are married with the parents' permission at a very young age. If the child is in that situation, they are no longer dependent on you. They're no longer considered to be a dependent child, so they don't qualify for that visa. Okay, so moving on, the other requirement is that you have to demonstrate that you can maintain the child adequately without recourse to public funds. Okay, so the sponsor, who is the parent or the relative who is in the UK, has to demonstrate that they can actually financially support this child in the UK without recourse to public funds. I've seen a lot of applications being refused because of this, because they do some calculations just to ensure that there is enough money for this child to be cared for by the parent who's trying to bring them. So you have to provide evidence of your finances, your income, your pay slips, your bank statements, and you have to tell them what your responsibilities are in the UK. They have to make certain deductions from your income in order for them to work out that you have a disposable income that is enough for you to then bring this child and maintain the child without recourse to public funds. Because what they do not want you to do is to bring a child and then say, oops, I cannot look after this child. I'm going to have to go and claim benefits for this child. You cannot do that. This is why there's that requirement for you to demonstrate at the time of application that you can maintain that child adequately without recourse to public funds. Okay, you also have to demonstrate that you can accommodate the child in the UK without recourse to public funds. So you have to provide evidence of the accommodation that is available for this child. So your tenancy agreement is important, or your mortgage statement if you own your home. In some cases, it might be important to have an overcrowding report done on the property to prove that there will not be overcrowding in your property if the child comes to the UK to live with you. An overcrowding report is something that you can get easily by instructing a quantity surveyor, or if you instruct an environmental health officer to come into your home. They will come to your home, they will inspect your house, they will prepare a report to say, well, we've inspected this house, we've inspected this property, it has so many bedrooms in it, there are 2 people living in this house. And so given that there are 2 people living in this 2-bedroom house or 3-bedroom house, there is adequate a room for this child to come and live with their sponsor. Those reports are usually very good to satisfy the decision makers that the child will be accommodated adequately in the UK without recourse to public funds. Again, they don't want you to bring a child and then you end up going to the council to say, look, I need to get a council house because I have this child now who has come to join me in the UK and my house is not big enough, so I need a council house. This is why the requirement is in the rules. At the time of application, you have to demonstrate that you can maintain, you can accommodate your dependent without recourse to public funds. Okay. The other requirement is that the child must not fall for refusal under any of the general grounds for refusal. Okay. There are some applications whereby the entry clearance officer might have to refuse the application under the mandatory grounds for refusal. Okay, this is slightly more complex, but there are some cases where the law requires the application to be refused. We call these mandatory grounds for refusal. Where those apply, they might be applied to your case to refuse the child. But if that happens, you can still challenge the decision if it breaches the child's human rights or the family's human rights. If you need advice on that, I would suggest that you seek advice, because we're not going to go into detail here on this broadcast because of our time. But that is just a framework to let you know that there are rules. There are rules that your application is considered against. So when they are looking at your application and they're looking at your documents, they are looking at these particular rules, which I've just outlined. It might be difficult to understand them because I have gone through them quite quickly. Normally, I take my time to explain this, but because our time is limited here, I've just raced through them basically just to show you that there are rules that you have to make sure that you satisfy before you apply. But if you do not understand them and you're thinking, well, I didn't really understand this, you do need to seek advice. I'll just say this: applications usually are refused because of the evidence that people provide. Do ensure that you provide good evidence with your application, because each application is decided on its own facts, and the documents you need will also depend on the particular facts of your case.
So, Primrose, I have got a simple question here. You know, in the past, uh, there has been so many changes in terms of how you apply for the visa. Are there still charges? So, for example, if you want to apply for a young person to come to the United Kingdom, what are the charges these days? And if it fails, do you get your money back?
I wish I could say you get your money back. You do not get your money back because they've done their job. I think the application fee is an administration fee. Okay, it's an administration fee which you pay for them to consider your application regardless of the outcome of the application. So when you pay the application fee for your child to come over and they make a decision to refuse it, they do not refund the fees that you have paid because they've done the job. You've paid for them to look at the application and they've done that. So for children, for this particular category that we have looked at, the application fee, I think it's 1,523. I know it's about 1,500 something. It might not be exactly that, but it's 1,500 something for this particular visa. Bear in mind, JJ, the application fees usually change every year. This year, the fees did not change because of COVID. So the government was gracious enough not to change the fees this year, which was a very good thing that they did. I think because of the pandemic, the government has had to adjust the way they operate, especially with the Home Office. And there's been some positive outcomes. I have to mention that there's been some positive outcomes from this COVID, the way they've had to rearrange and do things better. And so this year we've not had any increases. But I think next year we can expect them to increase. The only thing that has increased is the immigration health surcharge, which I've been telling people about. And we now have a date for the increase. So the effective date when the new fees will come into force is the 27th of October this year. So from the 27th of October, those applying for limited leave to enter the UK or leave to remain in the UK, they will have to pay £624 per year for the NHS. Yeah, that is the tax that is levied on visas. So if you're applying for a 3-year visa, you pay 624 by 3 because you want 3 years. So that's the only one that has gone up. But the immigration application fees haven't gone up, thankfully.
So what is now, what is the best time to apply for a visa as we are in COVID-19 now? Because there is so much chaos. People are still confused, not what to do. If you apply, will you come in? Because you have got all these ideas. No. These regulations which says that this country, when they come in here, they are supposed to quarantine 14 days, blah, blah, blah. Say, for example, I am from Africa. I am applying for a visa. What would happen now? Or should we wait until maybe next year?
That's a very good question, Joseph. We do have to consider the times that we are in at the minute, very challenging times. So you have to think about everything else that's going on in the UK at the minute. Yeah, with the pandemic, we have rules now that have been introduced because of the pandemic in an effort to try and curb the virus just spreading. So people have to be mindful of the rule of 6. And now we have different COVID rules applying to different regions. So you have to factor that as well. If you're applying to bring somebody to the UK, are you going to be in breach of the rule of 6? I mean, these are things that people have to constantly think about. The application process has changed as well because of COVID. So people applying outside the UK might want to check that they can still follow through the whole procedure, because part of the procedure when you're applying is you have to go in person to the visa office so that they can take your fingerprints. Okay. So because of that, you have to check where you are, whether you'll be able to complete the application process and go in person to have your fingerprints, which have to be taken to verify your identity. So different countries right now are going through different restrictions. You might be in a country where there is a lockdown and you can't actually go and have your fingerprints taken. So you might think, well, there's no point in applying if I can't finish the whole process because the visa office where you are is closed, and therefore you cannot go to have your fingerprints taken, because they will not consider the application until your identity is verified. And that's the way in which they verify your identity. So I think it depends on where you are. I think that's the answer to your question, Joseph. It depends on where you are. If your country is open and you are able to move freely, you're able to attend the visa office in your country where you are, so you can have your identity verified, you might as well apply now, because we don't know going forward what is going to happen. Everything is very uncertain now with this pandemic. So we don't know if there are going to be further lockdowns here in the UK, further lockdowns outside the UK. If we have lockdowns here in the UK, it will affect those applying inside the UK. Like we did in between March and June, the Home Office was shut during the lockdown in the UK, so they couldn't process any visa application. But you cannot stop applying because there's a lockdown. You still have to apply. That is my advice. Just apply, even though they're not going to look at your application until they've reopened. Just put the application in, do what you are supposed to do, and then wait for the rest of the process when they are ready to deal with you.
Okay, so let us, you know what I would like you to just to elaborate a little bit on Priti Patel, because some people might actually have not heard what she said, or they might not have even understood what she was trying to talk about. If you can just talk about what is her intention and what is her immigration policy, herself being an immigrant. So let us put that in check.
Correction. She herself is not. I did read somewhere where somebody, I can't remember which paper it was. Somebody commented and said, "Well, it's fair enough for her, but her parents were migrants." I don't know. I don't know about her personal history, to be honest. So I cannot comment on that. I cannot comment on the Home Secretary's own immigration status. But yes, I will talk about what she said, and maybe I should talk a bit about her the background to her keynote speech to the Conservative Party. The background, I think, is that this year over the summer they were dealing with migrants who were arriving in the UK from Europe on these boats and these dinghy boats from France and coming to the UK to claim asylum. And they said it's record numbers. So I think this is against that kind of background that they've decided that they need to do an overhaul of the entire system to deal with all of that. So I think this is why we ended up having the speech that we heard from her at their parties. Conference. Okay, so what she said was the UK asylum system is broken. I do agree it is broken, but for entirely different reasons. We have a system which is not working, which is hostile, which doesn't treat people with dignity. I do believe that they can still have an effective system of immigration control, but still treat people with dignity. But this is not what we experience as lawyers when we're representing clients when they're going through even the asylum system. It's not an easy process that people go through. It's a grueling system, contrary to what a lot of people out there think. It's not an easy process for people to go through. They have to go through stages as they go through, as they are screened, as their claims are screened. They are going through hoops. There's a stage one, then there's a stage two, then there's a stage three. It's not easy already, and that process is quite grueling for many. And bear in mind, we are dealing with people who are already vulnerable. Some of them have already been persecuted in the countries where they are coming from. So it is a broken system also, because when you read, if you are in the profession that I am in, when you read some of the decisions that are made in people's applications, you can see sometimes that common sense has gone out through the window. Sometimes there's no common sense at all in the decisions that are made. You read them and you think, really, is this the decision that somebody could come up with after going through all the evidence that was before them? Some decisions are just unbelievable, which is why the decisions end up being challenged and being in the courts because of the poor quality of the decisions that are made by the Home Office. So because of that, I do think that the system is broken, not for the reasons that the Home Secretary gave. So I think they have to reform the system to make it more humane, to make it better, so we can have better quality of decisions. And I think they can still be firm, but treat people with dignity. What we heard from the leaked documents about people being housed in ferries away from the mainland, I think that is just really worrying. That is really worrying, to treat people who have gone through a lot of persecution in that manner. That in itself might even amount to persecution. If you take people, put them in a boat somewhere, leave them at sea for God knows how long. That's why I said earlier, a little humanity goes a long way. I do agree that the system is broken, but it is for entirely different reasons. And yes, I do appreciate that they need to deal with the issue of the criminal gangs who are benefiting from bringing people to the UK on the boats. But the way the people are then treated when they get here, those who are seeking refuge in the UK, I think I have to say that I wish the government could rethink on that, because these are vulnerable individuals. And in modern day Britain, it would be shocking to find that people are being kept on boats at sea. And because when you're on a boat for days on end, because asylum cases take a long time to be decided. Sometimes it can be a year, sometimes it can be 6 months, sometimes it can be more than a year. So are they going to keep them on the boat for a whole year where you cannot go outside? Because what happened with the one I talked about, the one they had in the 80s, was that people were not allowed to go out on the deck because of the risk of suicide. Because what they had at the time was that people were jumping off the boat because they couldn't take it anymore. They were jumping and committing suicide. So they were not allowed to go out on the deck. They were kept inside the boat. That was in the L. William ferry, passenger ferry in the 80s. So if that is what they are planning on going back to, I think, to me, that kind of reform really should not be something that in this era, in this century, we should even be.
Yes, it looks like, look, the immigration system, it is not that it is broken today, but it seems that it has been broken for years, and not even one government can claim actually to get hold of this immigration problem properly, whether it is Labour, whether it is Conservative. Now, when the conservatives, you know, they have got their own thinking. And say, for example, when I applied for my indefinite visa to remain in the UK, it took me 10 years to get it. So I can't, yes, 10 years, yes. Actually 10 years, and those 10 years I was just like, you know, you have to go to the police to report, you have to go to the home office, and every time you go to those places you are shaking, you don't know what is going to happen. So, but it looks like there is no one who is holding them accountable. Nobody's challenging them. So you get a person like Priti Patel coming to talk about what it is. She knows herself. Okay, I've said it before, that she knows herself that where she came from, she should have a different way of looking at things. I'm not saying that she should either be in favor of migrants coming here, but she should have something to think about. She should say, well, look, you see, that's where I came from. So, okay, now I think we're going to round up. We have got 3 minutes actually left. I want you to talk about these issues of paying, and when you pay, and when the application does not go through, you lose your money. Then what do you keep applying? Then what happens?
Okay, so like I said earlier, if you apply for a visa, you pay your application fee. That is for them to look at the application. Okay, so their job when you pay them is to consider your application. We call it processing the application. If they refuse you, they've done their job. Okay, that is their position. They've done their job. They're not going to refund the application fee. But if you have paid the immigration health surcharge, which is for the NHS, which is the additional fee that you pay for the NHS, if you pay the immigration health surcharge and your application is refused, that is different. You get it back. You get a refund. So if you don't get a refund, you can request for it back. They have, I think, an email on their website which you can use to claim the refund for the immigration health surcharge if you do not get your refund. Yeah, so you do get a refund for the immigration health surcharge, but not for the application fee itself. So if you are refused, what do? You spend all this money. What do you do? If you do not agree with the decision, you can appeal against the decision. And I think I've talked about this before. If you think that it's a wrong decision, if you think that the decision maker made a mistake, they haven't properly considered your evidence, they've missed something, there's been a misunderstanding, you can appeal against it. You can go to the tribunal and they will hear your appeal and make a decision because the judges are independent from the Home Office. So what they will do is they will look at your evidence, they will look at the Home Office decision, they will hear you in giving your oral evidence in court if you choose an oral hearing, and they will make a decision for you. If you think, well, I think I made a mistake, I applied, I made a mistake, I didn't give the correct documents because they've asked for documents which I didn't have, then you lose your money. You lose your money. All you can do is apply again, just submit a new application, which is why, JJ, we always say people should first do a bit of research, get advice, instruct a professional, sit with them, go through your case with them, make sure you understand what is required of you before you apply, because it is quite a lot of money, like you said, JJ. To apply for indefinite leave to remain in the UK now, you pay 2,300 and something. Yeah, so it's not cheap. I don't know how much it was when you applied for yours, JJ,
No, no, no,
because
no.
now,
When I applied, I didn't
mm,
pay nothing.
really,
I only, yes, I think I only paid for the passport, I think. And that's,
okay.
yeah, the passport, I think I paid £350, and that's it. And that's why my argument is always that, look, you didn't give me this passport, I bought it from you.
Oh, you bought it. Okay, I see your argument there.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So they might say, yeah, well, we are granting you citizenship, but I am buying
Oh, you
citizenship.
bought.
You have to remember, before people would not pay anything. If they grant you citizenship because they want you to be
See
the
the check.
citizen of Britain, I think they have found a way of making money. You see, that's how I say it. So, because you are experienced in this. Now, okay, we have got 2 minutes. I want you to tell people, how do people reach you, because I made a mistake. I should have put your contact details here on the screen, but I will. I will. So please tell people how they can reach you. And I know you've got your website and stuff like that. So go on, please.
Okay, so my email address, if you want to contact me, you can go to info@ipslegal.co.uk. That's info@ipslegal.co.uk. Or you could use my personal email, my personal work email, which is pchiguri@ipslegal.co.uk. Okay, that's p.chiguri@ipslegal.co.uk. That's p.chiguri@ipslegal.co.uk. Yes, but we have our website as well, like you said, JJ.
So can they also, can you be reached through social media like Facebook?
Oh, yes, yes. I am on Facebook, so they
Yes.
can reach me on Facebook. They can call me. We've got our numbers on our website, or you can call me 07818066522. Yes, so if they have any questions.
Fantastic. I promise you, next time we will have all those contacts there, because now that's actually diminishes the idea of why we want to explain all these immigration problems. So Primrose, thank you very much for coming on AIL TV. As you know, we have been on this trail for a long time. So now I think with technology allowing us actually to reach people so easily, sometimes we have challenges. That's why we start late, and sometimes we even have to stop in midway. But I must say this, we have gone all the way from beginning to the
Mhm.
end without a hiccup. And that's why I have to thank
Yes,
eCam Live. There are two brothers who programmed this, who have brought us this program, which
ingredients.
actually makes things easier. There is no third party. We don't have to go through Skype. We don't have. It is really fantastic. Glenn and Ken, you have done a fantastic job. So now
Thank
let
you,
me
Glenn.
say this.
you.
I'm always saying that this conversation does not stop here. You can actually, after this, you can watch this program again and again on Facebook. It will also be on YouTube. Now, if you have got a question, send a question through Primrose's Facebook page, and you will get an answer. And if you have got challenging problems, I believe she does not only do immigration, but she does a whole lot of things. I think I need to sneak into that. So Primrose, tell us just a little bit. I know you do a whole lot of things. I know tonight we are talking about immigration. But what else do you do apart from immigration? Suppose a person came with a different challenging problem. Would you be able to help?
Yes, it depends on what it is, JJ. Okay, I am a qualified solicitor with experience in other areas of law, such as family law, civil litigation, estate administration. So if you have a problem in those areas, do not hesitate to contact me. I know we have been having these programs only on immigration because we understand that the people in the community are affected by this one a lot. But in the future, we will look at other areas and having other programs to raise awareness on other legal issues. We're going to look at estate administration, for instance, estate planning. I think there is need for that, and JJ and I have talked about that. So in the future, we will start doing that. But we do feel that we need to keep the immigration programs going because this area of law is fast changing and it affects people in the community a lot.
Right, and on that note, we have to stop here. But of course, now Primrose is she's the one fronting that. Next time, she's gonna be by herself. I will be in the background just changing buttons. So whatever she asks, I just bring onto the screen. So on that note, we must say goodbye, and we will see you next time. I hope you have enjoyed the program, but keep tuned or stay tuned, as they say. Thank you for watching.